Hey guys, today I'm going to talk to you about the Amazon fulfillment tour that I went on. I have to say, this is a pretty impressive establishment, so let's get started. So first of all, these tours are completely free. You can type in Amazon Fulfillment Center Tour. There are 21 locations available in North America, 20 of them being in the US, one being in Canada. The tours are booked out pretty far in advance, and they're usually only available on a weekday. There's a morning option and an afternoon option. I'd recommend kind of planning ahead and just going ahead and booking it. Again, it's completely free, so it doesn't hurt to go and book it. You will get a reminder email a few days prior telling you have the tour. And if you have to reschedule, they have a link in there to set you up to reschedule. Some quick logistics: parking is free and available pretty close up to the front. Also, you have to wear closed-toed shoes and closed-heeled shoes. And if you bring any purses, you have to be able to put them onto one shoulder. No backpacks are allowed, just for a safety hazard. So when you enter the facility, this is what you'll see. These turnstiles are pretty tight security. You scan your badge if you work there, and then they allow you to rotate through. When you're visiting for the tour, they will basically greet you, take you in, and take you into a separate room. So you won't be going through these turnstiles for the most part. And I should share here, all the photos in this video are things I've taken off the internet. They do not allow cameras into the facility. So all the fulfillment centers are pretty large operations, usually spanning about 14 football fields. So you can see it has different areas of the actual center. On the left of this picture, you see this robotic arm. It's called Amazon RoboStow. That's what's used to carry all the pallets up to the floors of the fulfillment center. The one I went on was about a 4-floor establishment, though I'm not sure you can really appreciate the multiple floors upon entering the facility. So at the start of the tour, they give you a headphone set with a radio walkie-talkie that has two purposes. One, to mute the background noise that's pretty monotonous in the background, and two, to be able to hear your tour guide without having to overpower people and then the noise. So the pallets on the bottom of the photo get picked up by the robotic arm and taken to the appropriate floor, where then they are manually unpacked and kind of categorized, scanned, organized, and placed into these containers that you'll see here in a minute, so that they can keep inventory on the items, know where they are, and kind of have a processing system at all times. So the item gets placed in these containers that you can see have a number and a letter, and it gets scanned to this area, so that when you place the order, they know exactly where it is and in which bin it is of the 20 to 30,000 of these little containers that they have. So now you're at home and you clicked purchase on the item that you want. It sends a message to the robot, which then goes, finds the appropriate container that it's in, gets under it, kind of lifts it up, moves it around, and brings it to a picking line of sorts. But first, we need to talk about these robots before we talk about what happens when it gets to that sorting line. These robots were originally made by Kiva, who Amazon acquired, I think, in 2012. So now they're called Amazon Robotics. These robots go under those little yellow containers, have a language that they all communicate with each other. And if you can see on the floor there's QR codes that are placed strategically equidistant apart. They're reading these QR codes and moving all across the floor. They said they've never actually seen an accident happen, and these things are moving at pretty fast speeds. And it's interesting to see that they will slow down when they get near each other, speed up when they have time to move around. But these things move with such finesse and move pretty quickly that it's what makes, I guess, Amazon pretty efficient. So you can see the robots under those containers. They're able to move a fully spin 360, carrying those containers around and taking them in a 360 direction. They can hold up to 3,000 pounds above them. You can see how that robot can get so narrowly fit between a given space. So now the question's probably similar to what I have. What happens if something falls out of a container or if a container breaks? So you see this man here with the vest on. He's part of what they call the amnesty team. That vest basically is what enters the cages of where these robots are, and kind of will stop the robots in its track and sort of slow it down. From the understanding that I got, they can't really just hit a button and halt all the robots. They kind of enter this man in and he'll sort of troubleshoot around, but he doesn't have to move around too much. The robots move for him because of that vest. All right, so you remember I said those robots bring these containers to what I called a sorting station of sorts. So you place your order online. It told the robot to go get the container, bring it to the sorting station. It now is going to tell this lady on that screen above her which bin your item is in. So that blue little picture above on the computer screen tells her the letter with the number. And you can see from left to right, there's 4 bins and they go from up to down from like A to G. So it's going to give her a direction like C2. She's going to go into C2 and try to get the item that's also on that monitor right there. In each bin, it may not all be the same item. So you may have a watch with dog food with a shampoo container next to it. So to make sure your lady or man has picked the right item, they'll take it out and scan it. And if they scan the right item, it's going to tell them a bin to put it in. If they scan the wrong item, it's going to make a little noise that's supposed to alert them to that's not the right item. So they'll go back in that corresponding bin and get the actual right item by looking on the monitor to figure out what they're supposed to get. Now they put it in these bins. You can kind of see behind her back, there's those yellow bins sitting there. There's a little light above each bin that you'll see here with this guy. It's really small. This doesn't depict what it actually looks like at the tour that I went on, but they have a buzzer that would look like a game show buzzer that lights up pretty bright, that when they put the item in that bin, they hit that buzzard, so then it gets processed that it's in that bin. Multiple items go in a bin, and if you ordered 6 items at a time, your 6 are not going back to back to back. Again, it depends on which container it's in and various other things. So they just get placed in these bins, and a computer system's keeping track of sort of which bins it's in. When the bin gets full, they just push it sort of back through that, and it gets onto a conveyor belt that gets sent now to another station. But that UPC then is tracking to you, and they're able to then sort it with your order. So the bin then has these items. The items get scanned and it'll tell the lady here in the packing station which box to appropriately put your item into. If you look on top, there's different sized boxes. Those are also labeled by an alpha letter with a numerical number, so A1 to A5. So when they scanned your item, it told them to put it into an A4 box, for example. So while she's manually constructing that box, a couple things are happening. It's printing a little UPC label, does not have your name or address on it, and it's also printing out the paper tape. The paper tape comes out of a label machine that as it's exiting is getting moistened. Basically, it has water through it, and that paper tape is perfectly sized to the box that it was told to put it into. And so you can tell there's room for error, but there's very minimal room because the tape should not fit if you have the right box. So what's pretty interesting is that when you place an order for an item, the whole order with the name and address is kept anonymous. So no one is able to see that you ordered this shampoo, for example. They just see it as a bottle of shampoo was ordered and it needs to go in this box. This is one of the stations that basically should catch the first leg of an error. So for example, if you ordered shampoo, but it was supposed to be a 2-pack of shampoo, but instead what got grabbed was 1, this is one little area that they should be able to catch that. And they have a bin on the side that's red that you're supposed to put it into if it's either 1, damaged, or 2, the wrong item is sort of been picked up somehow. I couldn't find photos of the bubble wrap packing station. If the item is considered small, it'll get sent to the bubble wrap station, and that item gets kind of thrown into what I called a little vortex, and then it gets kind of fused into this bubble wrap machine that forms the bubble wrap envelope around it. So the bubble wrap envelopes are one sizing and they are multiply created, basically custom to the item. So it's being fused around the item, which I thought was pretty neat and cool. So from the packing station, that box is sent down a conveyor belt to what they call the SLAM machine, which stands for scan, label, apply, and manifest. So that little red scanner above is scanning the little UPC label that I told you the packing station put on. It's then sending it down the conveyor belt just a little bit to a label machine that'll apply the label to that box. So you can see the label machine right here. There's two of them, so it'll scan 2 boxes at a time. And on the box, it'll actually kind of place it down, but when it's a bubble envelope, it'll gently put it on the envelope just in case your item is actually fragile. What's pretty interesting is when it's being scanned, I think it's being dictated down 2 conveyor belts at this point. So it gets split like a Y. The envelopes go down 1 conveyor belt because they are manually now going to be placed on by a human who's going to make sure the label's on. And on the box, they go down another conveyor belt. So the only point a human sees your address is at the point that they're placing the label on, but they don't know what's actually inside. So there's no one that's on the floor that's able to associate your address and name to the item of what's inside. This is sort of the last checks and balance in place at Amazon, because they're weighing each box to what they believe that item should weigh. So as it's going down this SLAM process, they know that your shampoo again may be weighing 2 grams. So if it's been more than 2 grams or less than 2 grams, it gets kind of flagged, and there's one person standing there that's going to pick this envelope or box off, open the box or envelope, and figure out what's in the actual container, and then assess on why the weights didn't match. And so kind of what I mentioned earlier, the shampoo, if it was supposed to be a 2-pack, but through all the systems, it got messed up. This would be the point to catch it. So they basically re-trigger the computer to start the process over and get the right item going through this whole system again. So now that the items are on these 2 individual conveyor belts, they will now be sent off to the system that would basically send this to get mailed out. So the labeled packages are now on this conveyor belt that are going to be scanned again and sorted. So you'll see these little hockey pucks of sort that are going to push the package down these little slides they know which slide to go down because it associates with which truck they're actually going to get packaged into. They get put in a truck like this, where they say it's like a game of Tetris, and you can see that conveyor belt on the bottom right dragging the packages along. He's going to take them and place it in the truck because they said airspace is expensive space, so they want each little piece of air in that truck to get filled. And they have different doors for the truck bays that are basically have a little screen on there, kind of like an airport. They have a monitor screen on the right, which tells you where each one's going. So it'll be like MCO1, which means Orlando 1. So you know that slide's going down to Orlando. And that conveyor belt will push the items down. Now, if the items are circling back, meaning they didn't get put down to a slide, they'll circle and circle and circle the loop, and that's because each slide has a little like grocery store light above it. If the grocery store light is green, then the slide's working and operating and the package should have gone down respectively. But if the grocery store light above is blue, the conveyor belt senses that and does not push the package down that respective slide if it was supposed to go down it. So it'll just push it along the conveyor belt and circle it till the light goes green. And the reason the light would go blue is because the bin accepting these packages at the end is full. So it's not going to just keep forcing packages so that it can fall off the conveyor belt. So then the item you ordered from the beginning is now in delivery and en route to you, whether it be a 1-day or a 2-day, whatever option you chose for shipping when you placed the order. So after the tour concluded, we walked back to the initial room we first met in. We passed a dry erase board that I think was labeled Voice of the Associate, and employees of Amazon can sort of list any grievances they have any memos they have, and everything on that board has to be acknowledged by a manager within 24 hours, which I thought was pretty impressive. So we go back to this room, we take our headphones and radio sets off and give it back to them. And then they give us parting gifts, which I thought was pretty nice considering this is a free tour, and I feel we benefited more than they benefited from us. There were 3 options: an Amazon water bottle, an Amazon plane, or an Amazon little van. And then we were escorted out of the room and through those security turnstile gates that we first saw in the first opening photos, and then exited out. Throughout this whole tour, you can ask any questions. There were 2 tour guides, one sort of in the front of the tour, one in the back of the tour. It was very friendly. Our tour guide even told us that she was sent to Disneyland recently to get more training, sort of on how to give a tour, and they focus on providing quality tours. They'll answer any questions you have. In conclusion, I think this tour was pretty awesome. I think no matter what you do, if you're in a business role or you're in a role that basically has room for efficiency, this is something, whether you like Amazon or not, whether you like Jeff Bezos or not, what he has to offer to learn from this tour is impressive. You can learn efficiencies, you can learn how to smooth out a process. I felt like everything was very black and white. Everyone knew what their role was. Everyone knew what was out of their role. And I just felt that there was systems in place that were meant to create a well-oiled machine. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I would love to hear what you have to ask. This was a very impressive tour. I encourage everyone to take it. Find one of those 21 centers near you. I hope this was informative, and I'll talk to y'all soon.